Welcome to PandaAudioBooks, the perfect place for a huge collection of fantasy novels. If you enjoy my content and want to support my work, a small contribution via PayPal is greatly appreciated. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell to stay updated with our latest audiobook chapters. Chapter 431, Prelude to a Funeral. I believe what you said to be true, Xianxia said quickly. His words caused Li Qian to frown. The eyes of Mo and Wang flickered. That's because the treasure is in fact here. It hasn't gone anywhere. Meng Hao's expression was the same as ever, but his heart filled with vigilance. If you're talking about the spirit-severing pill, said Li Qian grimly, then where exactly is it? It will appear on its own, said Xianxia. He suddenly turned, his eyes glowing with avarice. He was looking in the direction of the great tree. He suddenly lifted his right hand up, within which appeared a jade bottle. He crushed it, causing a black liquid to emerge from within, along with a rotting stench. Within the black liquid could be seen a maggot-like bug roughly the size of a finger. Its segmented body was wriggling, and as soon as it appeared, it lifted its head up and let out a shrill cry. Its body turned into a black streak that shot toward the top of the tree. The sight of the thing shooting toward the treetop caused Meng Hao's face to flicker. Suddenly, a sound could be heard like that of metal scraping against metal. It drifted out from the top of the tree along with a billowing golden light. The weakened golden crow suddenly flew out to meet the black bug and prevent it from getting near the great tree. A rumbling sound filled the air as the golden crow opened its mouth. A golden glow appeared that surrounded the black bug. It shrieked as it was submerged and then crushed into ash. The golden crow's body was now flickering, clearly weakened further. However, its eyes were filled with sharpness and dignity as it glared around at everyone. Behind it was the great tree, which it apparently would sacrifice anything to protect. The legendary golden crow pill is real, said Xianxia, laughing. After it was created that year, it acquired a spirit and transformed into a golden crow. At one time it had the chance to achieve immortal ascension, but in the end it chose to grow weak. Instead, it used its life force to protect a great, dead tree. His eyes glittered with greed as he stared at the golden crow. Li Qian's eyes also glittered, and by now, he was completely ignoring Meng Hao. His breathing came in pants as he stared at the golden crow. In his mind, he was looking at a spirit-severing pill from ancient times, something that could arouse a wild frenzy among countless cultivators. The eyes of Mo and Wang were also shining brightly. It's been weakened to the point that it resembles little more than the nascent soul stage, said Li Qian. In a meaningful tone that lacked his previous hostility, he continued, "Fellow Taoists, this is good fortune for us. Let's catch it quickly and then discuss how to divide it up. Don't let it get away." Laughing loudly, he strode forward. Xianxia chuckled. The pill won't flee, not with the tree here. Even though it's dead, the pill won't leave it. He, too, began to walk forward. Mo and Wang transformed into beams of light as well. All four began to converge on the golden crow. At this point, none of them were paying any attention at all to Meng Hao. He remained off in the distance, a complex expression on his face. He could leave now, and no one would stop him. However, he was currently hesitating. Booming sounds filled the air as the four ganged up on the golden crow. It let out a metallic cry which turned into a golden shield that enveloped the area around itself and the great tree. The booming sounds were coming from the attacks the four leveled against the golden shield. Blow after blow was causing the shield to slowly shrink. A look of exhaustion filled the eyes of the golden crow. Its life force was simply too faint. It looked back at the great tree, a look of profound longing in its eyes. More booms could be heard, and the shield shrank even further, forcing the golden crow to back up. Even the tree seemed to be decaying. Its illusory life force was fading, and it was now starting to look more and more like nothing but a dead, dried-up tree. "Look," called Xianxia. "The only thing it can do is protect the tree. Be careful, though. Logically speaking, the golden crow can't possibly be this weak. Something strange is going on." Booms continued to echo out. However, the four attackers all had various thoughts running through their heads. Also, they were clearly not attacking with full strength, but were rather being guarded in their moves. They seemed to fear this golden crow. Such a bizarre spirit would no doubt attack back before it died, most likely with ferocity that could leave them dead. The golden crow looked at the withering tree and seemed to sigh. It flew up to perch at its top, trying once again to use its life force to restore the tree. Unfortunately, it just didn't have enough life force at its disposal. Its actions caused the golden shield to grow even weaker and weaker. Its body trembled. Meng Hao's hands clenched into fists, and veins of blood appeared in his eyes. It's weak because of me, he thought. Otherwise Yang Song and the others could never force it down to this degree. If I leave, I'll be safe. But if I did that, I would be letting myself down. He looked at the bird. It was in a grave situation and was about to perish, but it was still watching the great tree. Meng Hao saw its medicinal pill aura waning, and once again thought of his master. He wasn't sure why he suddenly thought of master a second time, but as of this moment, his eyes filled with determination. There are some things that rationally speaking you shouldn't do, but you still do them anyway. He lifted his head up and then slapped his bag of holding. The blood-colored mask appeared. He placed it onto his face and immediately a bloody aura billowed out. A blood-colored mist roiled into being around Meng Hao, turning into Red Sea. As the sea waters undulated, a shocking killing intent exploded out of Meng Hao. Without a face, a single word, flames of war unify. As Meng Hao strode forward, he lifted his right hand. Behind him, an enormous face appeared. Its closed eyes snapped open, along with its mouth, as it uttered a soundless song of mourning. It then shot toward Yang Song and the three others. Almost the instant the face began to fly forward, Yang Song and the others looked back. Considering that the shield was just about to burst, Li Qian's eyes instantly filled with coldness and killing intent. Are you looking to die? The group of four exchanged glances and then began to unleash divine abilities toward Meng Hao. As soon as the divine ability shot forward, the face collapsed into pieces. It was incapable of resisting the power of four nascent soul cultivators. However, it was at this moment that Meng Hao waved his right hand. The flag of three streamers temporarily unraveled from around the body of G19. It unfurled behind Meng Hao, long and black. Immediately, one of the streamers spread out. It was old and dilapidated, but it transformed into a massive black canopy that swept out. The overwhelming aura caused the faces of Yang Song and the others to flicker. Li Qian's pupils constricted. Mo and Wang began to pant in shock. All three of them could instantly feel a sudden, intense sensation of deadly crisis. A massive rumbling filled the air as the black streamer shot forward. Blood sprayed from Yang Song's mouth as he was sent tumbling backward, his face filled with astonishment. Li Qian's right arm was instantly torn into shreds. Blood spouted from his mouth as he shot backward in retreat, face pale and filled with disbelief. Blood-curdling shrieks could be heard from Mo and Wang. Blood shot out from their torsos as they were slammed into each other. Their wounds immediately healed, but their faces were devoid of blood. They shot backward in retreat, staring at Meng Hao with shock. Thanks to the blood-colored mask, Meng Hao's cultivation base had climbed up much higher. Now he could fully utilize the power of the first of the flag's three streamers. Although he had not been able to slay any of his four opponents with the attack, it was stunning enough to shake heaven and earth. It came at a price, though. Meng Hao's hair was once again white. However, because of the boundless life force of his wood character totem, he was not injured on a fundamental level. His face was pale, and blood seeped out of the corners of his mouth. Despite the injuries, after his attack swept Yang Song and the others away, Meng Hao stood with his back to the tree. Li Qian gritted his teeth against the pain of his lost arm. Wiping the blood from his mouth, he grimly said, "Fellow Daoist Meng, you certainly have some wild ambitions. You want to kill the four of us and then take the medicinal pill for yourself." Just now, he had attempted to directly stand up to the attack, and had thus received this serious injury. "Fellow Daoist Meng, you're going against our agreement," growled old Devil Wang, his eyes thick with killing intent. Yang Song looked thoughtfully at Meng Hao for a long moment before finally saying, "Fellow Daoist Meng, why are you doing this?" "This pill has already achieved demonic ascension, and yearns for the great tree," said Meng Hao calmly. Even if you consume it, it will do you no good. It has no medicinal strength left, because it's not a medicinal pill anymore. Pills are pills, said Yang Song gruffly. And what's this talk of demons? At the most, it has a spirit. Fellow Daoist Meng, you're a grandmaster of the Tao of alchemy and have concocted many pills and consumed even more. Don't you understand? Pills will forever be nothing more than pills. Meng Hao was silent as he thought about Grandmaster Pill Demon for a third time. The feeling he got from the Golden Crow continued to seem more and more like the same feeling he got from Pill Demon. There are some things I hesitate to do, but after I do them, I feel no regret. Meng Hao said these words in a somewhat hoarse voice. As they echoed about, he offered no explanation as to their meaning. What Meng Hao didn't notice was that behind him, a strange light had appeared in the eyes of the Golden Crow. A soft, warm look could be seen in its eyes. It was no longer as cold and emotionless as it had been earlier. There was a warmth present that hadn't been there even when it gave Meng Hao the metal-type totem as repayment for his righteous bestowal. That act had been one of exchange. The Golden Crow did not want any karma to exist between itself and anything else other than the great tree. As of this moment, the warm glow in its eyes was very different. Suddenly, it spoke. Its voice was that of a woman, ancient and gentle. I can sense upon you the aura of a life force the same as mine. As for you and me, we have seen very different lives. Thank you for using righteous bestowal on the greenwood tree, and for standing up for us. When I was born, the greenwood tree was here to keep me company. When I was happy, he was here. When I was confused, he was here. It doesn't matter if he dies, I will always be by his side, this life, or in the next life. When living, when dying, we will be together. That is my Tao. I will never become a false immortal who shall exist as long as the heavens exist. I will walk my own path. I will be myself. In 1,000 years, no one would be here to witness our funeral. Because of you, our time together has been reduced by 1,000 years. However, the greenwood tree and I are deeply grateful to have you here to observe our death. As for these other people, they can accompany us in death. As means of repayment, I will give you my golden life tattoo. This chapter was sponsored by Michael Harrison, Adrian Seeger, Espen Lenhardsen, Omar Herrera, and Brian Nguyen. Chapter 432, Because of Meeting You. As the voice of the Golden Crow echoed out, an intense glow began to emanate from its body. It was so bright that it made it seem like the only thing in this entire world of grey was this one beam of golden light. At the same time that Meng Hao turned around in response to the voice of the Golden Crow, the beam of light fused into the metal-type totem tattoo on his chest. As it did so, Meng Hao's body trembled, and he was locked in place, looking backward. A roaring sound filled his head as boundless, indescribable metal-type power burst into him. Now, the metal-type totem tattoo on his chest was experiencing the same type of transmogrification that the wood-type totem had. This is my golden life tattoo, said the Golden Crow in its soft voice. With it, you will forever be able to wield the complete power of metal. Yang Song and the others watched in astonishment as the transmogrification occurred. Suddenly, an unprecedented feeling of crisis exploded out within them. Li Qian was panting, and his pupils were tiny dots. He had spent most of his life on the run, and had keen intuition. Heart pounding, he instantly burst into motion. He did not move forward, but rather, began to flee in the direction of the 7th volcano. Yang Song hesitated for a moment. Next to him, Mo and Wang exchanged a glance and then began to retreat. Right at this moment, a sigh suddenly came from atop the golden tree from the Golden Crow. At the same moment, the golden glow that could be seen with the naked eye suddenly vanished, as though all of it had suddenly been retracted away, starting from the roots of the tree and condensing at its crown. As the golden light flowed upward, the original color of the tree was slowly revealed. It was a grayish color, the grayness of death. Soon, all of the golden light from the tree had coalesced onto the body of the Golden Crow. Now, the Golden Crow emanated a shocking golden glow. Within the glowing goldenness, the body of the crow began to change. Soon, It was a young woman wearing a long, golden robe. Despite her young appearance, she emanated an aura of ancientness. She stood there at the crown of the tree, looking down with an expression of grief. "Ashes to ashes, dust to dust," she murmured. Then she stepped forward. As she moved, ripples spread out through the air. Each move she made caused change. Everything began to turn to gold, even the sky seemed to become solid. The whole place was turning into a world of metallic gold. As of this moment, every part of this world, every life, all existence became a part of this golden metal. Currently, Li Qian was fleeing at top speed, and had almost reached the mouth of the seventh volcano. It was at this point that his face suddenly filled with complete terror and astonishment. Despite the fact that the woman-form golden crow didn't seem to be moving very quickly, she suddenly appeared directly in front of him. "You!" Li Qian began to pant, and his pupils constricted. A sudden, intense feeling of grave crisis swept over him like floodwaters. Without a moment's hesitation, he began to flash an incantation sign. A vast quantity of magical items burst forth from his bag of holding. He shoved his hands out, using all the power he could muster to summon a black fog that emanated terrifying ripples. "If you're gonna die, then just die. You're not taking me with you," he roared. However, even as his divine ability manifested and a shocking aura emanated out, a golden hand shot through the air. It pierced through the black mist, distorting the ripples. The hand was then right in front of Li Qian. A finger tapped down lightly on the top of his head. The woman turned to look at Meng Hao. Her voice soft, she said, "Remember, this is the first word of my golden life tattoo. Convergence WYRD. Any life that I touch will turn into gold." Li Qian's entire body shook in response to her touch. Suddenly, a golden light began to emanate from his forehead. His eyes went wide as the light covered his entire body. His face distorted with terror, and then, his entire body turned into a statue of gold. Even his nascent soul had no time to escape, and was sealed within him. The metal-type power flowed into it, and it was transformed into a gold soul. All of this happened in the space of an instant. The speed was so shocking that no one had a chance to react. In the blink of an eye, an awe-inspiring nascent soul eccentric, a person who could shake the outside world wherever he went, a top-notch expert. Disperse the aura, exterminate the qi, eliminate the body. A clattering sound could be heard as the golden statue of Li Qian fell to the ground. It was completely incapable of movement, and the look of shock on its face was permanent as it stared off toward the withered great tree. This turn of events made Yang Song, Mo, and Wang feel as if thunderbolts were slamming around inside their hearts. Their faces immediately fell. Yang Song, his mind spinning, immediately shot backward. His right hand slapped his bag of holding to produce a command medallion, which he then crushed. As for Mo and Wang, the glow of a spell appeared around them, wrapping around them with layer after layer of brilliant light. It seemed to invoke some sort of pulling power that instantly caused ghost images to spring up around them. It looked like they would shoot up into the sky at any moment. The entire time, Meng Hao stood there motionless as the metal-type power continued to roar into him. Within the golden light around him appeared a massive, lifelike golden crow. As the golden light continued to flicker and the metal-type power flowed into him, Meng Hao could sense the transmogrification, as well as the increase of his cultivation base. Then he saw Li Qian die, and watched as Yang Song and the others made to flee. Silently, Meng Hao looked up into the sky. Up in midair, the woman's body looked blurry, as if she might disappear at any moment. The golden glow around her was fading, and she wasn't looking at Yang Song and the others as they fled. Instead, she gazed at Meng Hao. "Next, my golden life tattoo's second WIRD. I call it Net of Heaven." With that, the woman extended her right hand and pushed it down toward the ground. Immediately, the golden ground began to quake, and cracks spread out. As the land began to crack and break, countless fragments flew up into the air, each and every one made of pure gold. It transformed into a rain of gold that shot toward Mo and Wang. At the same time, this entire world, with the exception of the area occupied by Meng Hao and the great tree, began to collapse. All of the rocks, plants, everything fell into pieces. These tiny chunks of gold then coalesced into countless oddly shaped blades that began to spin around to form a towering tempest. Caught within the tempest, the faces of Mo and Wang filled with despair. The golden tempest seemed to have them trapped, motionless and ready to collapse. The two of them roared as they went all out in their attempt to activate their spell, causing a rumbling sound to fill the air. However, no matter how they fought back with their spell or the power of their cultivation bases, they were incapable of resisting this massive golden tempest formed from the land itself. The giant golden tempest swept over them, and the golden rain formed something like a massive net that no one could break through. When the net finally dissipated, nothing was left of Mo and Wang except two skeletons. Not far away from their bodies, their nascent souls were attempting to flee. However, they couldn't get far enough away, and were also destroyed by the tempest. Turn the world gold and collapse the land into a tempest. Use this power to form the net of heaven, which can exterminate all wills. There is a third word, called, if not a pill. The woman was now very faint and blurry, as if she were about to disappear. In unison with the softly spoken words, her graceful hand pointed at Xianxia, whose body was almost transparent as he utilized the power of a jade slip to escape. He screamed as something like a giant invisible hand wrenched him back out from the void he was disappearing into. His previously transparent body instantly became clear as he was pulled back into the golden world. His face was pale, and his eyes were filled with madness. "If I'm going to die," he howled, "I will choose the way I perish." Suddenly, his body burst into flames and the power of self-detonation appeared. The self-detonation of a nascent soul cultivator unleashes intense, indescribable power. However, the instant in which he seemed about to self-detonate, the woman-form Golden Crow softly said, "If not a pill." At the same time, she waved her hand, causing the golden shrapnel tempest to shoot toward Xianxia, where, shockingly, it formed into a gigantic pill furnace, with Xianxia inside. Caught within the pill furnace, the force of Xianxia's self-detonation was not only blocked, but turned into transformative power. Meng Hao began to pant with shock. He could clearly see that within the pill furnace, the force of Xianxia's exploding body was turned into a vortex that spun rapidly within the pill furnace. Incredibly, it was transformed into a single, blood-colored medicinal pill. Concoct a person into a pill. Be nostalgic of one's past. If not a pill. The pill furnace vanished, and the blood-colored medicinal pill flew over to land on the woman's hand. She looked down at it, then crushed it into ash. By this point, her body was clearly about to dissipate. She turned, not even looking at Meng Hao, but rather gazing at the withered, dead great tree as she walked toward it. As she neared, her body continued to fade away. With each step, more of her life force disappeared. As for the great tree, it began to rot away and turn into dust. "Live together, die together," the woman murmured as her body disappeared. The tree had completely rotted into floating ash. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. In that instant, everything in front of Meng Hao grew blurry. He was no longer locked in place, but could move once again. Suddenly, in the void in front of him, he saw a man wearing a long green robe. Next to him was a golden woman. They were smiling and laughing as they stepped out into the nothingness. "You are a pill and I am a tree. The year you appeared before me, my life became more than just greenness. I am a pill and you are a tree. The year I opened my eyes for the first time, I saw you and my life was no longer lonely. Sometimes, the meaning of an entire life can be only because of a chance meeting." His expression serious, Meng Hao clasped hands and bowed deeply toward the two departing figures. As he bowed, the golden light around him shrank down, and the golden world around him began to collapse. At the same time, the metal-type totem tattoo on his chest transformed into a character. Metal. 1. Note from a Gen. Regardless of whether or not you're talking about love or friendship, many things in life happen because of a chance meeting. I have been very lucky in my path of writing to meet all of you. Thank you for your support and thank you for willingness to meet me. Note from Deathblade. Isn't a Gen awesome? In Chinese, the character used for metal in the 5 elements is the same as the character for gold. Chapter 433. Enemies approach. When the metal-type totem tattoo reached its zenith, the ancient character for metal appeared. 1. The ancient character for metal in China looked like this. The character was branded onto Meng Hao's chest, right over his heart. In fact, his heartbeat caused it to undulate. It let out a golden glow similar to that emitted by his gold core. In this instant, his cultivation base suddenly exploded up. He was still in the great circle of the gold core, but his true battle prowess had now climbed up until it was truly analogous to the nascent soul stage. When it came to the path of concocting a 5-colored nascent soul, if you considered it to have 5 stages, then as of now, Meng Hao had completed 2. He took a deep breath as he looked up. The crumbling world of gold was now gone. He was back in the Crow Divinity Holy Land. Everything around him was colorful again. However, the entire place was now showing signs of collapse. Rumbling sounds echoed out in the air, and the 7 volcanoes were beginning to break apart. The powerful neo-demons that still existed in the area were roaring and out of control. The shocked members of the 5 great tribes were now doing everything they could to flee. Meng Hao's sudden appearance didn't attract any attention. All of the cultivators present were flying at top speed toward the exit. Meng Hao joined the crowds, his eyes glittering. Booms echoed out constantly as the land began to crumble and the mountains began to fall. Suddenly, lava erupted out from the 7 volcanoes and black smoke filled the sky. Everything around was now choked with dust. The ground quaked and the neo-demons roared. Meng Hao flew at top speed along with the crowd. The Crow Divinity Holy Land seemed on the verge of complete destruction. When he reached the exit, his body grew blurry, and then he was outside of the great golden doors. The members of the 5 great tribes all wore looks of astonishment. The Crow Scout tribe Great Father caught sight of Meng Hao. Sighing inwardly, he flew over. Rumbling sounds could now be heard from within the golden glow as the great doors shattered into small pieces. At the same time, the golden light winked out. The members of the 5 great tribes were all crying out in alarm. This sudden turn of events had completely shocked them. They were pale-faced and panic-stricken. The Holy Land. The Holy Land collapsed. The Holy Land is gone. Our Crow Divinity Holy Land has fallen. Could it be some inauspicious portent? The great fathers and priests of the 5 tribes had grim expressions on their faces, and their hearts were filled with uneasy feelings. The Crow Scout tribe Great Father's expression fell, and he ceased his approach toward Meng Hao and instead went to confer with the other great fathers and priests. Meng Hao floated in midair, staring thoughtfully at the fading golden glow. He thought of the Crow Divinity Holy Land concealed within the mountain range. He also thought of the golden crow and the great tree, and after a long moment, he sighed. As he sighed, the voice of the parrot suddenly sounded out next to him as the man-form Outlander beast appeared. Damn it! That G-Clan guy tried to wipe out my memories again. Lord Fifth won't stand for it. I'm going to screw the heavens of G. Screw the heavens. From his tone of voice, it seemed like this had become his new purpose in life. Meng Hao turned to look at the big man and frowned. Who exactly are you? The parrot, the meat jelly, or the Outlander beast? Obviously I'm Lord Fifth, B*TCH, said the man, a conceited expression appearing on his face. Listen, Meng Hao, I'm issuing you a staunch warning. From now on, you're not allowed to call out Tai the Outlander beast. She's become my beloved concubine. From now on you have to call her Lady Fifth. Seeing the look on the big man's face, Meng Hao glared at him and said, Screw off. You. I can't believe you dare to disrespect Lord Fifth. Even worse, you disrespect Lord Fifth's beloved concubine, your Lady Fifth. Don't tell me you want to steal Lady Fifth away from Lord Fifth. Having suddenly reached this conclusion, the parrot was furious. Even as the parrot's ire was provoked, the great fathers and priests of the 5 great tribes split apart, their expressions serious. They made their way back toward their respective tribes, followed by the other tribe members. The Crow Scout tribe Great Father and Sky Priest approached Meng Hao, bitter smiles on their faces. It was the Great Father who spoke first. The Crow Divinity Holy Land has collapsed and the protection of the ancestor has disappeared. Such an event is impossible to cover up. It won't be long now before other tribes in the region find out. The Sky Priest then continued, there are large and powerful tribes that have had their eyes on us for a while, but were frightened off by the Holy Land. They will certainly be itching to cause trouble. For us 5 tribes, this is a huge catastrophe. If we can't hold out against them, our tribes will be completely wiped out. You 2 are the most powerful vassals in the Crow Scout tribe. At this moment of crisis for our tribe, I truly hope that you will be kind enough to provide assistance. The Crow Scout tribe will definitely provide liberal compensation. With that, the 2 of them clasped hands and bowed to Meng Hao and the man-form Outlander beast. Meng Hao said nothing in response. Instead, he transformed into a beam of light and followed the other Crow Scout tribe members as they returned to their tribe. After reaching the rear mountain district, he entered his courtyard. As soon as he did, he slapped his bag of the cosmos, causing Big Hairy and the rest of his Neo-Demon horde to fly out. Then he looked down into the bag at the collection of other Neo-Demons inside. They included the Black Crows, the group of fierce mosquitoes, the Crimson Crocodile and the enormous lizard, all the other Neo-Demons he had acquired in the Crow Divinity Holy Land. Meng Hao's expression was the same as ever as he examined them. If I can really absorb all of these Neo-Demons into my collection, then my status in the Western Desert as a Grand Dragoneer will be much more valid. Having reached this conclusion, he slapped the bag, causing a black crow to fly out. Eyes glittering, he pointed his finger out. Immediately, the demonic chi in the area congealed onto his finger, transforming into pressure that weighed down onto the black crow. Time slipped by. Meng Hao sent some of his Neo-Demon horde outside to prevent anyone from interfering with his seclusion. A month passed. During that month, everyone in the 5 tribes of the Crow Divinity were all on edge. The strife and struggle that had existed previously between the tribes had vanished. The Great Fathers and priests had frequent talks behind closed doors. In the end, they chose to stand together and form an alliance. At the same time, the vassals from the various tribes came to the realization that the collapse of the Crow Divinity Holy Land was going to lead to all sorts of trouble. Gradually, they began to leave. They were only vassals, not true tribe members. Faced with imminent disaster, it was only natural that they would be unwilling to stay behind. In less than half a month, more than half of the vassals were gone. However, the alliance between the 5 tribes had restored some of the former grandeur of the Crow Divinity tribe. Furthermore, although many vassals had departed, the tribe still had many powerful experts, and their overall power actually increased. As for the leadership of the 5 great tribes, including the Great Father of the Crow Scout tribe, their attention was now focused primarily on Meng Hao. As a Grand Dragoneer, Meng Hao had already astonished them. A Grand Dragoneer might not personally be very strong, but the power he wielded in battle was very important. To the 5 tribes, although Meng Hao was an injured Grand Dragoneer and didn't have a large quantity of Neo-Demons, it didn't really matter. If necessary, they could vastly increase the size of Meng Hao's Neo-Demon horde, which could in turn win them a victory in battle. As of now, the entire region behind the mountain now belonged to Meng Hao. Even tribe members were prohibited from entering. The entire district had become like a restricted area. This applied to the Crow Scout tribe as well as the other tribes in the alliance. Because of Meng Hao's standing, he didn't need to take the initiative to ask for this. The 5 great tribes took the initiative to offer it up willingly. Even more respectful of Meng Hao was Jiu Lane. He had moved over to the Crow Scout tribe, and now sat cross-legged outside of Meng Hao's district behind the mountain. It was as if he was standing guard. The wild giant was there too, and it would occasionally let out shocking roars that shook heaven and earth. As for the big man who was actually the parrot and the others, he stuck around at first, but after a while ended up venturing out, to return only occasionally. After some time passed, the wild giant, who found it hard to stay in one place for a long time, would join Big Hairy and the others when they went out into the mountains. Another half-month passed, and Meng Hao was still in seclusion. It was at this point that a long beam of light flew through the air in the sky outside of the mountain range occupied by the 5-tribe alliance. Within this beam of light were 32 gigantic spiders. Each one was hundreds of meters long, and completely fierce in appearance. They were brightly colored, making it obvious that they were extremely poisonous. At first it looked like they were flying, but actually, an enormous web filled the sky wherever they went. The web glowed with a mysterious light that made it stand out in contrast to the blue skies and white clouds. Seated cross-legged atop the 32 gigantic spiders was a group of people wearing identical robes, whose bodies were festooned with totem tattoos. Behind the 32 spiders was a massive round, stony meteorite. A hole had been excavated in the middle of the gigantic rock, revealing an interior of crystal that looked like agate. It glowed with a violet light, and even seemed to have liquid circulating about inside. Slouching there was a middle-aged man in a long white robe. He was surrounded by several coquettish women who were currently massaging his shoulders. This man's features were handsome, but he had a large black mark on his face that completely changed his appearance. Lines of silk attached the gigantic meteorite to the 32 spiders, who were pulling it through the air. Behind them all, the sky was darkened with a vast quantity of spider neodemons. On the back of one of the giant spiders up ahead was a young man. Looking back at the agate meteorite, he clasped hands and bowed toward the white-robed man. In a loud voice, he said, "Your Excellency Dragoneer, up ahead are the ruins of the crow divinity. It is currently occupied by the 5 lesser tribes." "The old fogies back in the tribe are being too cautious," said the man languidly, his expression proud and aloof. "These trifling 5 tribes only managed to gasp their way until now because of the protection of the crow divinity. The priests figured out that the crow divinity is gone now, so what's the point in mobilizing such a big force to destroy them? And how come I got sent to probe them out? Whatever. Since I'm here, I'll handle things like I usually do. Before they die, I'll offer them a little bit of hope, and then crush it. My demon spiders love to eat the flesh of depressed humans. Spider apprentice, bring forth the Crimson War Declaration." It seemed that to this white-robed man, considering his identity, being dispatched to this place was somewhat of a humiliation. The man's voice echoed out to the western desert cultivators who sat on top of the 32 giant spiders. When they heard the Crimson War Declaration mentioned, their vicious faces filled with the thirst for blood. They licked their lips. The eyes of the youth who had spoken moments before turned red, and his lips twisted into a vicious smile. The Crimson War Declaration had only one purpose. It meant that the entire tribe, including tribe members and vassals, would have 3 chances to fight. If they were defeated 3 times in a row, the result was a slaughter and the complete destruction of the entire tribe. This chapter was sponsored by Edias Boalio, Syed Ahmed, Chris Lee, Peter Johansson, Danny Zhu, and Pound. Chapter 434. Eyes Open. The sky overhead was instantly filled with bright colors, as well as wailing cries. The faces of the members of the 5 tribes flickered as they looked up. The great fathers, priests, and grand elders of the 5 tribes made up quite a group of nascent soul experts, more than 20 in total. In the southern domain, they would count as a mid-sized sect. Of course, without a spirit-severing cultivator, they couldn't be considered a great sect. In the western desert, the 5-tribe alliance could be considered a powerful force, equivalent to a mid-sized tribe. However, all of the powerful experts were looking up at the enormous spiders in the sky, and their faces grew dark. That's the Great 5 Poisons tribe. To be able to control such a large number of spiders, that guy must be Ju Yi, rank 9 Dragoneer from the Spider Branch. I've heard that he's haughty to the extreme. His cultivation base is only in the mid-core formation stage, but as a rank 9 Dragoneer, he controls a vast amount of neodemons, plus 32 level 10 giant neodemons who are comparable to the nascent soul stage. In recent years, he single-handedly exterminated quite a few tribes. At the same time that the faces of the members of the 5 tribes fell, and the nascent soul experts' hearts sank, the cries from up above grew even more intense. Tens of thousands of ferocious spiders poured down from above to hover in mid-air. The savage aura that emanated from this black mass spread out to cover the entire mountain range. At the same time, the 32 level 10 neodemons, each of them hundreds of meters long, whistled through the air, emanating a powerful aura similar to a nascent soul cultivation base. The explosive power of it shook everything. In addition to the 32 level 10 spiders, there was the gigantic meteorite that flew along behind them. It was about 300 meters up in the air, its exterior pitch black, but its interior lit with a violet glow that made it seem as if the man sitting inside was completely violet. Powerful pressure emanated out, causing the members of the 5 great tribes to grow pale as they looked up into the sky. Wu Ling, Wu Chen, and the others began to breathe heavily, and their faces filled with fear. The young man atop the huge spider who had spoken earlier suddenly called out in a sharp voice, "My lord, the exalted Dragoneer Ju Yi of the 5 Poison Tribe Spider Branch desires to battle any cultivator in the world. You have 3 chances to win. If you fail, your 5 tribes will be washed clean with blood." His expression was one of arrogance as his voice echoed out in all directions. He waved his right hand, causing a red jade slip to shoot down toward the ground. It suddenly exploded and transformed into a red mist that billowed out to form a red battle platform 3,000 meters wide. You have the space of 20 breaths. If no one steps forward to fight, it will be taken as a forfeiture, and the cleansing by blood will begin. The young man licked his lips, and a bloodthirsty glint appeared in his eyes. Around him, the 32 gigantic spiders with cultivation bases similar to the nascent soul stage had cold-blooded expressions and emitted vicious auras. The 5 tribes were silent. The 20 or so nascent soul cultivators, including the Crow Scout tribe Greatfather, all exchanged glances. Considering the combined might of the 5 tribe alliance, it would be impossible for trifling Ju Yi to exterminate them, even with his 32 level 10 neo-demons. Whether in terms of the 5 tribes' defensive spell formations or their sacred ancients, they were more than enough to handle this one crisis. However, what they truly were worried about was the fact that Ju Yi represented the 5 Poisons tribe. Considering these nascent soul eccentrics were all great fathers, priests, and grand elders, it was obvious that they were wily old foxes. They could immediately tell what was going on. "They are probing us out." The Crow Divinity Holy Land just collapsed, so the 5 Poisons tribe is a bit hesitant in coming here. Therefore, they decided to feel us out. That's right. If we fight and win, then perhaps we can frighten them. Then we'll have a bit more time. Even better would be if we won and killed him. That would be perfect. Alternatively, we could just not fight. We could immediately activate the protective spell formation and let them attack us. The latter has various advantages and disadvantages. The former would be the most direct route. The nascent soul cultivators were silent for a moment. Glances were exchanged, and many of their gazes came to fall on the Crow Scout tribe Greatfather. Since Meng Hao was a Grand Dragoneer, that put the Crow Scout tribe in a high position within the 5 tribe alliance. "Constantly running away from conflict reveals your weakness to the enemy," he said. "The Great 5 Poisons tribe isn't stupid, and will be able to see the true situation. Then, when the true conflict begins, we would really be weak. This battle must be fought. Furthermore, that man must be killed. If we strike like lightning and exterminate him, it will give rise to fear." A gleam of ruthlessness appeared in the eyes of the Crow Soldier tribe Greatfather. "Fight!" Just when the 5 tribes alliance was preparing to attack, a howl could be heard from the mountainous forest off in the distance. Big Hairy suddenly shot out carrying a small, dead animal in his mouth. In the blink of an eye, he was in the area locked down by the myriad of spiders overhead. Behind Big Hairy were the rest of the Greenwood wolves, all of whom were dashing along at top speed carrying animals in their mouths. They often went hunting for food, and after having fun for a while would return to rest outside the courtyard where Meng Hao was currently in seclusion. At this exact moment, they were returning from such a jaunt. Their appearance was quite sudden, and immediately caused a disturbance among the spiders. As for the 32 giant spiders, their auras suddenly retracted, and cold looks appeared in their eyes. "Eh," said Ju Yi, a look of surprise on his face as he sat up straight inside his meteorite, his eyes glittering as he looked at Big Hairy. "That's a wolf king. Furthermore, it's been mutated. Excellent. Excellent. I never imagined that I would find a neo-demon like that in this place. The ones behind it aren't as good, but still not bad." Even as Ju Yi was muttering to himself, the ground suddenly shook and a roar could be heard from within the forest. Then, the wild giant appeared, crashing out from the trees. Its enormous frame was shocking to the extreme, and the instant it appeared, the surrounding spiders emitted strange calls. Even the 32 giant spiders were shrieking and assumed vigilant and threatening postures. "That's a wild giant," said Juyi, his eyes going wide. "There's actually a wild giant here." He stood up, a look of disbelief on his face. His eyes shone with fervor and greed as he stared at the wild giant. According to legend, the blood of a wild giant can increase the bizarre power of secret Dragoneer arts. Furthermore, when mixed with neo-demon food, it can have an amazing effect on their progress. Even more important, if I can subjugate a wild giant, then my status and position in the tribe will be completely different. Juyi started laughing uproariously. Eyes shining, he pointed at the wild giant. "Bring me that wild giant and those greenwood wolves immediately." By now, he had completely forgotten about the Crimson War declaration. As soon as his words rang out, the surrounding spiders shot through the air toward Big Hairy and the others. Shocking, ferocious power emanated out from the 32 giant spiders as they shot spiderwebs out toward the wild giant. In addition, the 5 Poison's tribe members on their back flew forward in attack. As for Juyi, he immediately sent his meteorite flying forward, completely ignoring the members of the 5 Tribe Alliance. When this happened, the 5 Tribe Alliance members all stared in shock. The Crow Scout Tribe Greatfather and the others exchanged delighted glances. Of all the people to provoke, this Juyi picks Grandmaster Meng. "It seems we won't have to do a thing today. This Juyi will definitely be thwarted." Big Hairy swallowed the animal he held in his jaws and then howled. His body suddenly expanded, and his eyes filled with savagery as he charged toward the incoming spiders. Hairy number 2 and the others also let off successive howls. The wild giant's eyes went wide as it roared and attacked. Instantly, roaring sounds echoed out in all directions. Facing an onslaught from so many spiders, which included the 32 terrifying giant spiders, Big Hairy, the greenwood wolves and the wild giant were all in great peril. Huge webs descended onto Hairy number 2 and the other greenwood wolves, making it impossible for them to even struggle. No matter how they howled, they couldn't shake off the webs. Big Hairy lifted his head up and let out a powerful howl. Now, the level 10 spiders turned their attention to the wild giant. After being covered with hundreds of huge webs, it let out a cry of pain. As for Big Hairy, his eyes were red as he glared at Juyi sitting there in his flying meteorite. Big Hairy's body flickered as he dodged one of the giant webs. Then, he turned into a beam of white light that shot directly toward Juyi. Juyi stood in his meteorite, laughing as Big Hairy approached. He raised his right hand and gestured forward. Secret Dragoneer art, burst the void. Immediately, the indistinct image of a huge spider magically appeared in the air in front of Juyi and then slammed into Big Hairy. Big Hairy let out a miserable shriek as all of the white fur on his body suddenly burst into flames. These flames were not red, but rather black, and seemed to be poisonous in nature. Big Hairy's body shook and blood sprayed out of his mouth. Looking suddenly dispirited, he spun around and then transformed into a beam of light that shot off into the distance. "You seem quite intelligent, but now that you've been poisoned by my secret Dragoneer art, where do you think you're going to flee to? Based on neo-demon behavior, you'll most likely go looking for your master. Very well, I'll kill him and use his blood to sever the connection between the two of you." Laughing, Juyi flicked his sleeve, causing the countless spiders to fly with him in pursuit of Big Hairy. The sight of it was quite impressive as they took up the chase. Big Hairy's expression was dismal as a black aura emanated off of his body. Had he not consumed a real demon nurturing pill, then he would have already been transformed into a pool of blood. Right now, his body was trembling and he let off growling howls as he shot through the air. After circling around the mountain, he neared the area that had been surrounded by mist for the entire past month. Jiu La was also sitting there cross-legged. Suddenly, his eyes opened and he saw what was happening. His face immediately fell. Big Hairy, his eyes filled with grief and sorrow, howled disconsolately as the massive spider horde closed in on him. The instant the shocking howl echoed out, deep within the mist, Meng Hao, who sat cross-legged in his courtyard, suddenly opened his eyes. At the same time, thousands of other pairs of eyes within the mist suddenly opened as well. There were more than 10 pairs among that group which emanated shocking auras. Chapter 435. Big Hairy Tattles. Is this where your master lives? Asked Ju Yi, smiling calmly within his meteorite. His expression was one of extreme aloofness, as all living things were nothing more than insects in his eyes, and few things existed that could catch his interest. His eyes then flickered over toward Jiu Lane. A rank 7 Dragoneer? Presumably this is your master. With a smile, Ju Yi neared the seemingly weak and dying white wolf, and then shook his head. He was surrounded by more than 10,000 spiders, all circulating around his body and even blotting out the sky. A shocking aura spread out, especially from the 32 giant spiders who continued to emanate ripples comparable to the early nascent soul stage that caused the auras in the area to change. Jiu La began to breathe heavily as he stared at the scene. When his eyes came to rest on Ju Yi, he gasped. It wasn't too difficult to identify the man. Based on the power emanating from him, if he wasn't a Grand Dragoneer, then he was definitely a rank 9 Dragoneer. Sticking with a rank 7 Dragoneer like that can't compare to following me, said Ju Yi, his eyes flickering with contempt. He waved his right hand, and instantly one of the 300-meter large spiders flew toward Jiu La, emanating killing intent as it neared him. First I'll exterminate your master, Ju Yi said coolly, and then use his blood to sever your bond. From now on, you're going to be with me. As the words left his mouth, the 300-meter large spider descended upon Jiu Lane. As it did, a cold snort suddenly echoed out from within the mist. It started out very faint, but in the blink of an eye it transformed into something like thunder. It then began invisible waves that shot toward the incoming spider. This giant spider, whose power was similar to the early nascent soul stage, instantly began to tremble. It let out a miserable shriek and then, astonishingly, retreated. Before it could move more than a few meters, however, it began to shake so violently that its body exploded into bits. A simple sound caused a 300-meter large spider to collapse into pieces. Ju Yi's facial expression completely changed, filling with grave astonishment. At the same time, Meng Hao's figure slowly became visible as he walked out from within the roiling mists. His pace was slow, but as he walked, the mists seethed, making it seem almost like he was cloaked in the stuff. His powerful aura soared up into the heavens. After acquiring 2 totem tattoos, Meng Hao's cultivation base was powerful enough to tangle with the early nascent soul stage, but certainly not so strong that he could kill an early nascent soul cultivator with a single snort. Unfortunately for the spider, it was a neo-demon, not a cultivator. As a demon sealer, Meng Hao was innately capable of emitting pressure upon neo-demons. This was a technique he had come to master during the past month, in which he took command over all the neo-demons in his bag of holding. Meng Hao had come to call it demonic pressure. Now that he could use demonic pressure, Meng Hao was a Grand Dragoneer in more than just name only. As he strolled out, Ju Yi's face flickered again. Without even realizing it, he backed up a few paces. The more than 10,000 spiders around him began to tremble. It was as if to them, Meng Hao was the most powerful neo-demon in the world. In addition to trembling, some of them even let out miserable shrieks. Grand Dragoneer! Ju Yi was panting as he looked at the reaction of the neo-demons around him. A buzzing sound filled his mind, a feeling that he had experienced before only when meeting Grand Dragoneers in his tribe. Despite his change in facial expression, Ju Yi abruptly said, "Well, so what if you're a Grand Dragoneer? How many neo-demons do you have, you?" Before he could finish his statement, droning sounds could be heard from the black mist behind Meng Hao as nearly 1,000 green mosquitoes appeared. Each of the mosquitoes was about 3 meters long and had long, sharp mouthparts. Their bodies were covered with bristly fur, and they looked matchlessly malevolent as they blotted out the sky. "Demon mosquitoes!" gasped Ju Yi, his eyes growing wide. Such creatures were rare in the Western Desert. In fact, in his entire life, Ju Yi had only ever seen 10 in total. Not only did they have the fearsome ability to drain the blood of the bodies of creatures vastly larger than them, but even more shocking, they were extremely poisonous. Actually, in some aspects their poison wasn't really a poison, but a plague. These demon mosquitoes were incredibly divine and mighty, and the shocking fact that there were over 1,000 of them caused Ju Yi to breath deeply. Simultaneously, the 10,000 spiders in the area began to shriek, and some of them even fell prone on the ground, not daring to move. Behind the 1,000 demon mosquitoes, a black light appeared. Within the black light were countless black crows flying through the air. Their eyes emanated a shocking, bright red glow. Those are demon crows. Zhu Yi's brain was once again filled with a buzzing sound. Crows such as these were not often seen in the Western Desert. Most frightening of all were the legends told about them. Supposedly, these demon crows had some connection with the dead. According to the stories, they could bring dead people back to life. Some of the spiders next to Zhu Yi were now completely ignoring any of his commands. They prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to move even a muscle. Next, even more neo-demons appeared behind Meng Hao. Each one that did caused Zhu Yi's expression to flicker. When the red crocodile appeared, Zhu Yi gasped and his face filled with unprecedented astonishment. Searing demondile. That's a neo-demon from ancient times, a searing demondile. They're born at level 8, within the depths of volcanoes. After that, the giant lizard crawled out. As soon as it appeared, it let out a bellowing roar that caused the surrounding black mist to congeal and be sucked into its mouth. That's another ancient neo-demon. Heaven's slaughtering lizard. Zhu Yi's entire body was shaking. By this point, each and every one of his spiders were frightened to death. Even the 300-meter large spiders were trembling and prostrating themselves, not daring to move. Just who exactly did I manage to provoke? A Grand Dragoneer with so many fearsome neo-demons. Damn it, even the Grand Dragoneers back in the tribe don't have neo-demons that can compare to these. Zhu Yi's face was ashen as he said, "Sir." Before he could finish, Meng Hao, his face expressionless, flickered forward with incredible speed to appear next to Big Hairy. Completely ignoring Zhu Yi, Meng Hao squatted down and gently petted Big Hairy's back. As he did, the poison completely vanished from within him. After the space of a few breaths, Big Hairy was completely back to normal. He rose to his feet and let out some yipping sounds as he rubbed Meng Hao with his huge head. "I understand," said Meng Hao, nodding his head. He then pointed out with his finger, causing one of the nearby 300-meter-long spiders to instantly explode. Then he pointed at another one. It too exploded. One after another, Meng Hao exterminated 6 of the 300-meter large spiders. Those were the ones who had injured Big Hairy. Now they were nothing more than ash floating in the wind. "Any more?" asked Meng Hao, looking at Big Hairy. Big Hairy nodded and let out a few more yips. Seeing this, Zhu Yi's scalp went numb. He was now scared out of his mind. "I'm from the 5 Poisons tribe, Even as he began to speak, Meng Hao suddenly looked over at him. Meng Hao stepped forward, and in the blink of an eye was directly in front of Zhu Yi's meteorite. He reached out and slapped it lightly. The slap caused a roaring sound to fill the air. The meteorite tumbled backward, emanating cracking sounds as it did. Huge fissures covered its surface. Although it didn't break into pieces, a deep palm print was now clearly visible on its surface. "HMPH," said Meng Hao, his eyes glittering. Zhu Yi's mind and heart were reeling, and blood sprayed from his mouth. His eyes were filled with disbelief and complete astonishment. This meteorite was a precious treasure of the Dragoneers in his tribe. Dragoneers of the Western Desert seem powerful because they can control large quantities of neo-demons. However, they have a fatal weakness. That weakness is the fact that Dragoneers generally lack a powerful cultivation base. Because of that weakness, they can be easily killed. That is why Dragoneers in the Western Desert take special care to protect themselves. This meteorite was exactly such a precious treasure, capable of withstanding a blow from the early nascent soul stage without being harmed. However, just now Zhu Yi could clearly sense that his precious treasure had been cracked. That could only mean one thing. This Grand Dragoneer had a nascent soul cultivation base. The Grand Dragoneers in my tribe are only of the Great Circle of Core formation. Grand Dragoneers who have nascent soul cultivation bases are almost completely invincible. They are rare in the Western Desert and their secret Dragoneer arts are capable of summoning spirits severing neo-demons. Zhu Yi was so scared that his whole body was shaking. He let out a shriek as he pushed his meteorite to go even faster. Clearly, he was planning to flee. By this time, the members of the 5-tribe alliance, including the nascent soul eccentrics, had arrived on the scene. Seeing everything that had happened caused them to gasp. They knew Meng Hao was strong, and had assumed that if they all joined forces they would be able to suppress him if necessary. Now, their faces fell and their hearts filled with foreboding as they realized that their lack of action before had led to the White Wolf and the Wild Giant being injured. Before they could even begin to think of how to make up for their actions, Meng Hao's body shot forward toward Zhu Yi. His right hand formed a fist, which punched out. A boom filled the air, and more cracks appeared on the meteorite. "Senior, please spare me. Sir, everything just now was an accident, a misunderstanding." Shocking roars filled the air as Meng Hao punched out 3 times in succession. Finally, a splintering sound could be heard as the meteorite disintegrated into pieces. Zhu Yi was pale-faced and incapable of fleeing. Meng Hao reached out and grabbed him by the neck. He then looked back at Big Hairy. "Was it this arm?" he asked. Big Hairy nodded, letting out some more yips as he recalled the humiliation he had endured. Meng Hao nodded and grabbed hold of Zhu Yi, who let out a blood-curdling scream as his arm was directly ripped off of his body and transformed into a haze of blood and gore. Meng Hao's expression was the same as ever as he hovered there in mid-air. He was just about to release Zhu Yi, when he suddenly noticed the Wild Giant, Hairy No. 2 and the others who were currently bound up and injured within the spider webs. Seeing this, a cold light appeared in his eyes. He suddenly clenched his fist. A cracking sound could be heard as Zhu Yi's neck was instantly crushed. His eyes went wide, and he was dead. Meng Hao released Zhu Yi and then turned to face the nascent soul eccentrics of the 5-tribe alliance. "Well, hello," he said. This chapter was sponsored by Benny Chen.